they had the sales thing out there, I thought.
I was just gonna say, this is Brad show, and turn it over to you.
On the agenda.
So how are you still involved with Butler?
I'm on the board.
On the board? Okay.
Some of them don't work what they say they're doing here, so.
What do they charge over there to do an IFR search?
On our place, it
Yeah.
changed, it never goes into the bank. Usually it's around $400.
Yep.
Anyhow, how many things you have to search on? On anything I found. I don't know if this is, we have. But this is what
Okay.
and I got trouble with the keys out there to take off. I just got to switch on.
Making sure that you're sitting there talking?
Yeah.
You're playing music up there?
Yeah. I won't say anything to her about it. We ready?
Yep.
All right.
Okay, the June 13th meeting of the Airport Advisory Board will now come to order. Will you please rise and join me in the flag salute?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, before we get started with anything, I'd just like to say we all know we lost a very good friend this month, and a member of our airport board, old Dale Rose. He was an avid airport supporter. He'd been on the board for years, and he always stepped up when we needed anything done. When it was decided that I needed to not pay the bills and take the money, well, Dale stepped up and said, "Well, I'll take the money." So he took care of the hangars and everything from that, and he was a big help at the airport. And I just wanted to say to everybody that we're really going to miss him. So, and that's all I had. Do we have any public comments?
Jerry Gipner, 14810 West 159th, Olathe. And I'm going to start out with a question. I see subleasing is going to be on the agenda later this evening. Is there going to be a public comment section then, or is it now?
Well, we don't stick really too close to Robert's rules on those kinds of things.
I am aware of that, and that's
we're
why
a small group, and we like to, if there's comments later on, we'll allow that.
Very good. That's all I got.
Don't get too carried away.
I understand.
Okay, all right.
Thank you kindly.
Anyone else? Roger?
Roger Thomas, 300 North Persimmon, Olathe, Kansas. I'd like to kind of expand a little bit on what Mr. Hayden said. Brian, I saw you at Dale's memorial service. I want to thank you personally for coming to that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, then we'll get down to the consent agenda, and that'll be the approval of the minutes for May 9th. I'm sure everybody's read those thoroughly, and we need a motion.
I move we accept.
Okay,
I'll second.
second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Okay. So now we are ready for new business. First item is the update on the real property acquisition on the Paulson tract, and are we getting that from you, Brian, or from,
I'll do, the first part, and then Brad can certainly,
okay?
chime in here. As of June 13th, the price has been agreed upon for the property,
Mhm.
and a contract has been signed by the owner. The city council, ended up, not having a quorum on June 6th where they would have considered this, and so it's up for council consideration on June 20th. And that leaves us a really short window to get the grant submitted, prior to July 1st. But I think we still think we can get that. We are finalizing the tenant relocation and allowance determination. And we do feel confident that we can get the grant submitted, to the FAA prior to July 1st. Items in work, bid out the demo and site clearing, the grant application, relocate tenant, property closing, property demo, and then the FAA project closeout report. Those are things that'll be in the future. Brad?
Okay, well, I don't have a whole lot beyond that. Brian pretty well covered the, major items. I guess the one thing that, Dave, you always have mentioned, the $61,000 in expiring entitlement will be used in this grant application. So we don't have to worry about that. Probably about, this application will be about $200,000, so we'll almost take care of everything for next year's entitlement as well. One thing I also want to point out is the FAA is going to allow us to split the project. At one time, they said you need to get the demo done, the tenant relocated, all this stuff by July 1st, and that just wasn't going to happen, so they gave us some grace. For them, that's like, wow, like they're, this is like a huge concession, even though it would sort of more of a common sense type thing, but nonetheless, so there will be, after July or in August, we'll be back with the final efforts on the tenant relocation and the demolition for the Paulson tract. Closing is due to be before, August 1st or before, so August 1st is the last day we can do it. So we're really just waiting on the city council to approve the purchase.
And we might not be able to demo August 1st. I mean, there's a time frame for the tenant. There's a time frame for the tenant to relocate.
Yeah.
And
correct.
so, but it will be this year, though.
If they give you till August?
Well, we put in the contract, August 1st is the close date. It has to be before, August 1st or before. So I don't think there'll be any issues with that. I mean, yeah, the city can still get reimbursed and all that. This thing is, the tenant may still be out there for a few months after the city owns the property, so they're gonna be, the city will be a landlord. So Brian gets to add that to his list of, stuff he has to take care of. So that's kinda where we're at with that, so, there won't be any expiring entitlement that you're gonna
Okay,
lose.
so we're gonna use our $67,000 that would have expired.
Yeah,
And does
61,000.
that expire after 4 years or 5 years?
It's 4 years, can carry over 4 years.
Okay, so that takes care of the 4-year, and we're going into something that's 3 years old.
Right, so next year, you'll have, assuming, I mean, once we do the remainder, because the project, the whole grant's gonna be around a little over 200,000. So you'll have 180. So that's obviously, then you'll have used up 120 of your 150 for next year. So we still need to do a project next year, because
Well, I mean, we've got 2 years of 250 still hanging out there, don't we?
yeah, you'll have around 450 still after this project is done.
3 years worth.
'Cause, yeah, and Congress has not allocated your 2016 primary entitlement, so we're still operating off of your, but that's supposedly in the works. We'll
All
see.
right.
See how the election starts to play out before it happens, so that's where we're at with that, but it'll.
Okay.
The other item is the update on the airport layout plan.
Okay.
And I guess one of the bigger things we need to kind of discuss, and this ties into the funding, had some trading off of some information back and forth with the FAA saying, you know, we really need to buy this full tract, this 24 acres of the Baker property. And the FAA came back and said, well, 6 months ago they said, hey, that's important, we're gonna look into it. They said the other day, we're not gonna come up with any additional funds for the Baker property. So we have to use as much of the non-primary entitlement to purchase the tracks, for protecting the east-west runway. I guess we could start with this first one, and option one is just to do that corner. It's about 10 acres, and that would take care of the existing RPZ for runway 26. We'd still displace it, that's something, I guess.
You wanna do that first?
Yeah, I guess we could talk about that now. All these things are tied together, but,
Sure.
as you know, with the issues with the property on the east side of Waverly, and its zoning as commercial, it's a developable tract. To get the runway protection zone off of that track, we have to displace the threshold an additional 250 feet. So Brian's in the process, we've got one bid, to move the
Right.
stripes, and so that's kinda in the works.
We actually have, sought bids from several contractors.
Okay.
One of them came back and said no, that they're not comfortable doing this.
Okay. So anyway, that's a part of this, so that's a good thing that he put this graphic together, 'cause that's something we've talked about, and that's somewhat sort of the reason the master plan got, and updating the airport layout plan was brought back up, was to take care of that issue. Alright, so we gotta buy some of the Baker property, and now we've been told we've only got about $500,000 to buy it. I don't know how far that's gonna stretch. We haven't talked to the Baker heirs to find out what they're even remotely asking for that property.
Have you got any feelers out to figure out what they figure, like, other people would figure out that land would be worth based on the use?
Well, I don't know, Dave knows them better than I do, but, I've not spoken to him, and that's something we need to talk.
No, I mean,
we
like
need
from
to
other property sales around.
Well, we're looking, you know, it's gonna be around a buck a square foot, so, you know, 50,000 an acre is pretty much gonna be a fairly standard number for Johnson County in an area that's, hard surface, water, sewer, utilities nearby. It's also in an area that's zoned appropriately for that use, so you're gonna look at a 10-acre tract could cost $500,000. I guess the thing we're gonna talk about is a 10-acre tract only really will get you coverage for your existing runway and the existing RPZ. And it will allow for some hangar development.
Yeah, we should be able to put one row in there, right?
Put one additional row of about 20 aircraft. So, I mean, that's certainly not bad, but,
Yeah.
we talked about what would be a next step, and if we could get 17 acres approximately, we could protect for the RPZ, we could protect for the new potential east-west turf runway, have the 20-acre or 20-tenant T-hangar, and then we could also put two additional, not nested T-hangars, but, standard T-hangars, parallel to the existing runway, because that would become a taxiway, so you could potentially add maybe 40 hangar units by getting 17 acres. And then finally, the 24-acre tract allows for all those same things plus hangar development on the far south side, as shown here. So you can see where, in option one, you can just get the 20-unit nested T-hangar. Option two, you can get the 3 hangars on the north side, and then in option 3, you can get all those hangars. So you could potentially double your hangar count if you got that 24-acre tract. So I guess one of the things would be, I don't know where the city council would be for, fronting some money.
Well,
The FAA would reimburse over time with that $150,000, but,
they would reimburse later after you go ahead and purchase.
yes. but as that 150 renews, you would just basically submit a grant application, and the 140,000, the money would be paid back to the general fund of the city. Because in essence, but they'd be loaning it to you, until you bought it, so.
So you're thinking that's about $1.4 million if we did the whole thing.
Yes, approximately.
And we'd have 500.
Where do you get that number from? 50,000 an acre, 24 acres, 700,000 acres?
Well, whatever the math comes out to, that might be a little high. I was thinking around $1 million.
Something a little over $1 million to get it all.
Right.
And so it would take 3 years of not
Yes.
doing anything else
Not doing anything else, but,
with government money.
now, it is a possibility, I've mentioned this discretionary funding before. Doesn't mean that FAA said for 2016, there won't be any, and for 2017, there won't be any available.
Yeah, we don't know what the rules
Oh.
are for that yet.
Yeah, and we're gonna have a new president one way or another who will, their administration will dabble into this program, because they always do. They may change the rules, change matches, they may change the entitlement, they may increase the entitlement.
And the other option's to go after the last house too, to the south.
That is another option to go after the last house. And I guess the concern is, if you lose, if somehow, if Baker's just sold the property, when development came in there, the city wouldn't have much of a leg to stand on to stop any kind of development in that northeast corner. So you could potentially lose the entire runway and lose the potential for having an east-west. So it's a pretty critical piece of ground.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's some things the city still could do to kind of make the development work, but nonetheless, it would make it risky.
We could probably swing the 10 acres things. All those other options for all those number of hangars, I can't see, we wouldn't be able to fill them anyway. So, acquiring all that land right at this point in time, we need it to do the runway. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
But that's, again,
at
that's
the very
further down
least,
the road.
I'd like to do, it'd be nice to do the 17-acre one, but, 'cause that at least gets you the east-west turf plus.
Well,
Yeah, but we know
but-
that's even a ways out, right?
yeah, but it
Yeah.
may never happen if we don't get the ground now.
That's correct.
What's the city's view on something like that? We've went to the city before and borrowed money,
Right. Can we
And
get like an
and all
interest-free loan?
and always paid it
Or,
back.
or like an interest-only loan, I should say?
That's definitely something we can bring up. That's something I haven't talked to council about.
That would be, I hadn't thought about an interest-only loan,
Exactly.
because as the FAA reimburses you.
Exactly. You brought up that fact, right? So if we can do that, then we can just simply pay for the interest on the loan until we can submit the grant money.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. But one thing I want to ask you about, Jim, though, is what is the potential for that grass? Actually, I've walked out there on the. Is actually, how close is it to be if you just started mowing it down as a runway? Is that grass in pretty good shape? It appears to me that it is, but I don't know if there's any low spots or anything.
Right now, there's some low spots there.
So there would be some grading, some things to be done before you could start operationally using.
You might have to move the lighted windsock.
Yeah, there'll be some things like that.
Otherwise, you gotta avoid that on landing.
When they originally did that, they just had lights all the way around it, and you just landed inside the lights. As an emergency
Right.
field, so.
Grass site.
Yeah.
But certainly the 17-acre tract allows, and that kind of gets back to this discussion. The 24-acre tract, that could add potentially 50, 60 based aircraft. And I don't know, can you?
That's
is
a
it
long
worth-
way out though, right?
It's a long ways out, but nonetheless, you've
Right.
got room for all that.
The first thing is you be sure and get your east-west grass runway
Secured. Yeah.
secured.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
I feel we should ask, I don't know what about the rest of it, but how about if we ask the city to explore, or ask Brian if the city would explore the idea of going after the whole thing.
Okay.
And then it's gonna take us 3 to 4 years.
We can probably swing the interest-free thing.
Oh, yeah.
or not interest-free, but interest-only loan.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think that would be,
The payback within 3 to 4 years, assuming,
Grant, yeah.
yeah,
Grant
there's,
money's still there.
once again, there's the risk,
Mm-hmm.
if the new administration decides to change the program and Congress goes along. Now, I will say this, the non-primary entitlement's been a real popular addition or change that was done, I guess, under the Bush administration. And it's been around for over 10 years now, so we're more than that, actually 15 years or so. So it's one of those things, is it possible? Yeah. Is it likely? I don't think so, but
What are the, what's the likelihood of getting that money after the fact? So if you spent it all now and you acquired this, like the chances of using your regular entitlement sounds like is there, but what about that extra entitlement? Would you have a better chance if you've already incurred that debt, or?
I would say no. I would
About
say it
the
almost
same?
would make your chances worse, because the FAA would say, well, Gardner solved their problem.
Yeah,
We don't have to worry about that.
yeah, that's what I was kinda wondering about.
So, so I
I
would
figure
say-
you dealt with it on your own, so why should we cough up
Yeah.
more?
Exactly.
Well, if we thought we could do that at all, we ought to do something to kinda get an option on that or something.
But
Well, one thing
17
we-
acres allows us to secure the east-west. And the
Right.
you know, that, and also the 17 acres gives us the ability of 3 sets of hangars, right? Which
Absolutely.
is more growth than I can see in Gardner happening in, 10 years anyway,
Yeah.
right? That extra, if we go to 24 acres, only gives you the ability to have some hangars on the south side of it. That, that
What do you
850,000.
What do you need from us to, maybe do you need a recommendation from us that we could explore?
I think that would be great if we get a recommendation to, or consensus among the board to let us, contact the city council and, see what options we have for the 17 to 24 acre purchase.
I think so.
At some point, and I don't know if you wanna bring up talking to the Baker heirs, because I know when we first started the whole thing with the Paulsons showed up at a council meeting, and
Yeah, they were a little disappointed that they hadn't heard from us first,
so,
so.
so if there's some way we might, I think it'd be good to contact the Bakers and find out a little bit of what they're thinking.
Yeah, 'cause then after that, then you can go out and get some other people to appraise it, right? See what they say and see how far off Bakers are from that.
Right.
It's in a trust, and the trust right now is trying to figure out what it's the grounds for. I know, I just know that, so, I don't know who you'd contact other than, I think I would contact the Baker.
You know, that's kind of, and that 10-acre tract actually is kind of a, I don't know, it'd be sort of a minimalist approach. Now, you actually could even go back on, if you could scroll back to that one, Brian. You could actually, if you didn't even wanna buy the if you just wanted to do solely the runway protection zone, probably could leave a corner of that piece available.
I wouldn't bother.
I wouldn't, I'm not, that's why I didn't bring it, I just thought, you know,
I don't think the Bakers would do that either.
Yeah. Yeah, what would they do with it?
Smart.
I'm kinda curious, considering what they had to put in for the filling station with infrastructure for drainage and runoffs and stuff like that, I think the way this slope, and I don't know, Pam, you know, how flat, press that property is, could be a pretty expensive piece of property if somebody wanted to develop commercial.
yeah, well,
But the land would be the cheapest part, I don't know, what do you thoughts on that, Cam? Cam? I say, you think, you know, I think with the cost of what they had to do on that filling station on the corner, if they wanted to develop that 10, 12, 17, 24 acres there, that it could be pretty expensive. I'm sure that the city would force a lot of water retention and drainage, other things like that that could run, that could be in our favor, because we're, you know, grass runway is going to absorb moisture, not run it off.
Yeah, they'd actually have a couple of options as far as detention. One, what the filling station did with the smaller site was, it was underground detention. we raised it up, but if you had enough acreage here, you could do just a pond.
Well, that, and you say pond, but if it were a detention facility, you know, if we could get the developer to donate the detention area as runway protection zone.
I gotta be careful because we were looking at on the other side of Waverly of having a detention pond. When the business was looking at going over there, we said, well, you can't put the building there, but maybe you can put a detention pond there.
Well,
FAA was not liking that idea.
oh, well, as I understand, the FAA's policy on detention is if you trains within 24 hours, you can do that. Sometimes those things don't always work the way they're supposed to, and they turn into duck blinds.
I think we need a motion then, I think,
I just think, 'cause it's a discussion item, I just think a consensus on the, of the board, if that's kind of the feeling you guys got, that we will move that forward, probably the second meeting in July. But it definitely will talk to the Baker family first, so they're not
Yeah.
blindsided by the discussion.
are we all good on that?
I'd say go with the 17 acres.
And one thing, Brian, when you do present to the council, this piece is pretty darn important to the whole master plan. It's probably the biggest key right
But,
there.
and like I said, the council indicated when we were discussing, bringing the airport back under the city, you know, what do we envision for the airport? And they wanted to maintain it as a, airport for, aviation enthusiasts, and, this would be a problem if we didn't acquire it, so I think they would be supportive, I would hope.
Right. Okay, that's all I had, guys.
Thanks, Brad. Next item is airfield grounds and fuel farm status. Is that Jim's time to tell us what's going on out there?
Yeah, pretty much.
Do you have anything, Brad?
The only thing I had on this one was, we're still working with the contractor on the, sealing the taxi lanes. The guy that came out and met with me and gave us a quote left the company. So I'm starting back with a new guy, so. Not this Brad. He's a young kid that came out and been doing it for several years and was real excited, and then they got an email from the company that, he no longer works for them, so.
Okay.
And that's actually all I got, Jim.
City came out and trimmed the trees in the park last week, and did a nice job. As far as the fuel, we haven't had any problems other than the belt broke on one of the pumps, the auto fuel pump, and I've changed a different kind of belt for that from what they brought it out. We've got, probably about 1/3 of our, normal amount of auto fuel sold. And then we've got probably about half of our 100 little that we got. That's the whole thing. So we're all right right now.
What about, we got the two events coming up this weekend, and then the following weekend, two events, are we gonna be good for?
So Jim, I was noticing when I was out there, where they fixed the drain tile, we still got a lake. Where it rains.
Yeah, we still have that lake, that didn't fix anything as far
Okay.
as the retention.
Okay.
That goes back to what Brad was asking about in the low spot too, I think.
Anything else?
How's the turf doing out there where you reseeded it this past fall?
It's under some kind of pressure now from the dry weather that we've had last week or two, with the heat. We always have pressure on land down there, that's normal. We can have a little bit of rain or so, that would, we probably should try to, probably do that again this
you borrow the county sprayer, or the county seeder, when you reseeded it? Okay.
Okay. Financials. I really don't know how to read this thing. How much money do we have?
Are you making the assumption that I know how to read it?
I was hoping somebody did.
The first page is actually the revenue. And then we get into the next page, 2 pages are the expense reports. Set up exactly like, the previous, one that we gave. Yeah, actually, I think we're in pretty, I mean, very few expenses in the last, in this past pay period, so.
You've got a year-to-date actual of 271.
That is correct.
Is that actually money in the bank?
No. That's what you're bringing in, not what you're paying out.
That's what I mean. What you mean, is that before you have
Yeah, then the other one would be the expenditures.
You have 28,000 in expenditures year to date.
That, if you subtract the two, that should get you where you need to be, about 240. That came
So we're-
in, probably? Yeah, that about right?
you agree with that? You think it's about 240 something or other?
I believe it is, yes.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's what you brought in, that's not what's in the bank. What's in the bank would be whatever you had January 1st, plus the difference of these two numbers.
Right. The year to date, actually, that should include, money brought in at January 1.
Really?
Good.
Yeah, I believe that's at 142 down there.
Business activity?
Actually, seemed like it was 168,000 or something like that, man, in two different, or something close to that.
Right, and if you had the last month's financials, we kinda highlighted those amounts, and there was some payments that came out from the end of last year, and then some of this year's for PEC's work. So,
Well, that's what we need to know. So we need to know if we're gonna have money to do our,
this is what they're gonna give us, but I can work with the finance department and just to verify that, okay, when I give you this, what's in the bank? If that would be
Right.
a good number to have.
Yeah, 'cause normally accounting wouldn't show you that, right? It's like what you're asked, what you brought in, what you took out, it tells you what you did for the year, but doesn't tell you what you carried over.
Right, they won't print anything out other than this, but I can sit down with them and just say, bottom line is what's in the bank at this point in time.
we need to know how much money we got available. So far, I look like we're doing good, I believe. So we don't have to approve any of that, that's just for our information.
That's correct.
We just approve very little anymore, don't we?
Yeah, well, the percent of budget ones should tell us too, that, if they budgeted like our big payments that we have to make, right?
Yeah, everything should be budgeted in there. We actually budgeted money for, sealing the taxiways. We put it in the budget. At the beginning of the year, we looked at how much we thought snow removal would be. So all that is within the budget.
I'm just looking for the big ticket items, the ones that we have to pay on the hangar.
That,
Did you see that one in there?
Should've
in
been
the
in
spring,
April.
we just pay interest in October is when we pay the big amount of around 60.
Yeah, I'm looking at in the expenditures one, which column that would be, or which row.
Should have come out in April, I think.
Oh, it should still be in here though. There's R&M buildings and R&M equipment, but those aren't very big amounts.
actually be to the city.
Outsourced
Yeah.
service?
It's probably gonna be, if you look at I guess probably the last page of the financials, second to last
Was that a
page.
carryover page? Expenditures?
We've got land, building, and structure improvements and airport taxiway improvements.
Yeah, that's improvements, so,
So the last page actually has, principal.
QA's improvements. Capital.
Dave, when do you typically pay that?
The big one is on October.
What amount?
Didn't you have something in April?
Probably that that could be it on the last page, that 62,000 that's budgeted in there. That's probably the
62? Oh, this
payment
is,
for October. And it's usually 15 or so. But see, we dropped off the,
yeah, 'cause it shows none of it's been
we
paid.
had some, money we were paying back on, the runway, I believe. And I believe that's paid back,
Okay.
yeah, so.
Yeah, so it's probably that 62,000? Yeah, 'cause it,
That'll come out in October.
right, 'cause our budget right now is 0, okay.
Mhm. Okay, any more, questions on that? The next item is upcoming events.
And we've talked about this in the last couple meetings, the June 17th and 18th, this Friday and Saturday, the Gathering of Eagles. And then June 24th and, June 25th, which is the 2016 Kansas City Area Vintage Aircraft Fly-In. And if you,
I had somebody call me on that this week, wanted to know the details of it, so she got my name from the website, so I gave her the information.
and, then the other thing, two other things I have on there, I've attached, I have it here. Lee Summit is having an open house on June 18th. And so that's on the screen, I put it in your packets. That's something kinda like what we were talking about at the last meeting, about possibly having an open house this fall. So I might look at tailoring it, something to what Lee Summit has done.
Yeah, it is good with the breakfast, a lot of guys will bring in that guy that does what, those Chris cakes or stuff like that,
Mhm.
or, something like that.
So I just kinda thought that might be something to show you that Lee Summit's having it on the 18th, which is this Sunday, or Saturday. But that might look similar to what we would like to do this fall.
I think that looks good. Surprised Lee Summit's doing anything right now. They're extending all the runways and they have a lot of construction out there. And it, other business. You have, are you soliciting for another member?
Yes, we actually, I think, posted something out to the building, at the terminal here about a week or two ago. In your package, you have a flyer. I don't think I got it on here. But, we are soliciting, anyone that would like to be on the airport advisory board. If you know anybody that would be a good candidate, please ask them to, submit through Jeannie, our city clerk.
Okay. Anybody so far?
Jeannie hasn't mentioned it. I don't know.
What about other people that have previously applied? They reapply?
I'd encourage everybody to reapply.
Okay.
The next thing I actually have is on an article on protecting the airport. This was written by, a gentleman with the Kansas Department of Transportation, the Aviation Division. So you have it in your packet. It's keeping your town vibrant by keeping your airport accessible. It talks about the importance of, zoning and doing things around your airport to make sure your airport, can continue to function. A lot of it's what we talked about earlier this evening, is making sure you have control of the land around it. I did talk to the Kansas Government Journal and, ask if we could copy this out of their magazine and give to you, and they were actually very excited that someone was actually reading it and said, please copy it, so.
Good.
If anybody out there wants a copy, I can be happy to get them a copy of it. It's a pretty good article.
All right. Last item is subleasing.
This is what Jerry was talking about. And the only thing I have to say on this, if you look at your brief sheet that I've attached, it's, really short. It says staff is starting to work on this, but, we've got a long way to go before we're ready to present anything to the board. We've tentatively scheduled for a discussion item in August with the board on this. But honestly, I've been real busy since the last meeting and haven't had time to devote to it. But I think Jerry would like to come on.
Sure.
I don't know what this is yet, but I did wanna bring up a couple items just for you and Chad. But first off, going back on the, airport, plan on the 24th, 25th, we need to close the east-west runway, especially for the 25th, from a safety standpoint. So Dale always did the, NOTAMs, so we just need to know who to get to do the NOTAM for it.
That'd be, Dave, can you do that?
I wasn't listed out on that. You were, and I think Ray was, weren't you?
I never did get on it either.
I hope somebody's on it.
We can just submit
I
it
can
to
do it
them.
legalized, but I can't do it legalized.
I can give him a call.
Okay.
Okay. So,
So you want to note them closed on the 24th and 25th?
well, not necessarily the 24th, maybe the evening of the 24th, definitely the day of the 25th, and we will have it Xed off.
Okay.
It depends on what the weather does too, you know, it's,
No 1 hours usually too, so we just specify an hour.
Hmm.
Like a time frame, they usually
I
want
think Brian
time frame.
virtually all day, it's,
Well, whole day is,
Starting what time on the 24th?
7 AM to,
yeah,
Like on the
PM.
24th, you
seven
don't wanna
AM,
close it all day.
seven to seven?
well, the 24th, I have mixed emotions on whether we need to close it or not. Kinda depends on what we get
Yeah, it's just
for
people
expected
arriving.
turnout, you know. But from a safety standpoint, having that east-west open on the 25th is,
I'd say like
very
seven,
nice.
7 AM to 7 PM?
yeah, that'd work good.
Okay. I'll check in and see what it takes to get on the list. I
Okay.
don't think I'm on it, but I should be able to get it.
Maybe between you and me, we can sit down and walk through that process, 'cause I've not done that before.
I believe you're on it.
Yep.
I gotta figure out who to call, and then if I get that done, I may call you and
I'll get the numbers
notice
if needed, but you
thing.
should have it.
We'll have something in file.
Okay. Now, on
if
the
you'd like, you
subleasing,
could add me on from,
okay? Like I say, we've been kicking that around, haven't found any way to improve it or do it or whatever, but a couple of comments I wanted to make and you need to consider.
speak into the mic there so we can hear you.
Oh, okay, I can do that maybe. So anyway, we have numerous problems, but, some of them that I see are derelict airplanes, and I call derelict airplane anything that hasn't flown in 15, 20 years and has no aspect of it flown in the future. So that's a lot of hangars tied up. Then we got, hangar leasees that have been dead for 15, 20 years. That seems like it might be covered. And another thing that's gone on for many years, and it's happened 4 times in the last couple of months, and that is people buy an airplane with the hangar. So, and, I know OJC tries to keep out subleasing, but doesn't do a very good job of it. They did have a case where a gentleman advertised the airplane as airplane for sale with hangar at OJC. And turned out he was a subleaser, so he ended up being off the airport. But you have to have some kind of rules somewhere, you know. So. But that's all I got. I just wanted to bring those subjects up for Brian and Chad to think about. The rest of us dang well know them, so. And that's all I got, so.
Okay, I know that at one point, Johnson County, they said that they did not make airplane lease. In other words, if an airplane was sold and the person wanted to, he could rent a hangar, but
No, No, at OJC,
That's been when I had my shop over there, but
Well,
it's been a long time.
you know, I still have 2 hangars with those people, and believe me, if you sell your airplane, you better move another one in or give up the hangar. So. Now, there's a lot of subleasing under the table goes on over there, we all know that, so.
What, they don't allow it?
That's right, they don't allow that, so.
Okay.
But if you put it in the Kansas City Star, you will get thrown out, I can tell you that, so. Okay, thank you all.
All right,
Have a good evening.
thank you, Jerry. Some more comments? Okay,
Cam Blazer, 12121 Norwood, Leawood, Kansas. On subleasing, it's been a problem for years. I think there's some cases, and I'd like to be one of those there's an exception for. Building an airplane is not ready to come out. I've had the hangar since 1982. Got a period in here, probably another year before I get it out. I understood we're December 31, it was supposed to all cut off. I do think you ought to tighten up on subleasing. I do think that sublease person who's having it that way needs to come before the board, show progress on a project, give you an update, not just go on for infinitum. So I'd like that to be considered. Hate to lose that hangar. Made more money off that hangar than any on the airport. Paid ground rent for 20 years and you absconded with it, now paying the city rent on it. So kind of attached to the old thing. Would work something out, I appreciate it.
Sure.
Dave, we can hear Ryan, but it's tough to hear. There's little conversations going on. I've lost some of my hearing, but if you guys use that, it'd help much.
okay, but you didn't use it when you came up there.
Testing?
You should-
Okay.
I actually have a couple more items.
Okay,
Okay. Today, we did have, Joel come in and sign a lease for the flight school.
Good. I was talking with him. And he said you wouldn't do it before because he didn't have his insurance. So did he get that squared away?
But he's got insurance, he provided a copy of his business plan, on where he wants to go now and into the future. I believe he got a plane, was it yesterday? Got a plane yesterday, donated. He's real excited. We're, making the lease effective as of August 1st.
And what's the rent on that? Is that like $350 still?
That is correct.
and, how many airplanes has he got there? What?
He's requested 4 tie-downs, but, right now he's got, I think, 1 plane and 1 in the works.
Was he after any of the, open tees?
I did say that we did have 1 open, I told him the rent was $65 a month, but if he wanted that one, that he could have that 1 open one.
Okay.
But he's real excited. I mean, he wanted to know what kind of improvements he could do to his office space, and I said, paint, clean, whatever he wanted to do to make that a going concern, so. Next thing, we were gonna take hangar rates to the city council, on June 6th, but they canceled the meeting. So we're gonna take the hangar rates on, June 20th, a week from tonight, to the city council, and that's for 2017. And we incorporated the comments from the board last time for the recommendation. We'd be leaving the open hangars the same at, 65. The hangars on the east end, both of those would go up $5. I think the hangars on the west end go up $5. And then the ones that are currently 85 go to 100. So, that does go to council for anybody that's interested a week from tonight. So. And just to let you know, it's gonna be a really, really long council meeting. So.
Not to deter anybody.
Right. I had them put this on the very last agenda item, so, couple other things, the playground equipment out at the airport, it is a city park, it's, that we, are taking over the playground with all of our city parks. And so the Parks Department will be evaluating that playground equipment at some point in time in the future, and, would be coming back if any changes are needed to meet current requirements. So I just wanna let you know, you might see someone out there kind of evaluating that.
If they choose to put new equipment in, that comes out of their budget, I suppose?
I would hope so. I don't know that process, quite honestly.
It's a city park.
Right. Just so long as it doesn't come out of the airport or public works, I'm fine with it, so.
Okay.
They're gonna retain the name of the park, you know?
I would think so. I don't see any reason to change that at all, unless you guys want it changed.
No, no. Dick did a lot for the airport.
And we have talked to our Parks Department, and they are going to be taking reservations.
Okay.
Oh. Here, or? Oh. Okay, they wanna, the Parks Department current configuration is where they charge $15 an hour and a 2-hour minimum like rent a shelter house. And so they'd be willing to take reservations if you're okay with that.
I think that'd be smart.
First you know, Brian, that money needs to go to the airport.
Right. I mean, if nobody's out there, you know, and somebody shows up and has a party out there and nobody's out there, you know, so be it, but if somebody wants to reserve it in advance.
We normally make it available for the people with the vintage aircraft, right? And the,
Yeah, they have it reserved. I mean, they've already reserved it. That's fine.
are they gonna charge them?
You wanna pay me for it?
I mean,
No, we're still in discussions on it, so that'll happen on the 26th of June.
I mean, we normally just like to have people come out there.
Right.
And, you know, maybe get interested in airplanes, you know, and that kind of, anyway.
Right, so I think for those types of events, I mean, they've already reserved, so, they're fine. And I think that was it.
How about Dale's office and his space?
We've had, one inquiry, about the office space. And then we heard from Dale's sister that someone had, Dale's daughter, that someone had talked to her about it, but they have not contacted the city yet.
Aviation related?
Yes, very much so. I think that's all I have.
In fact, that has to be aviation related, I think. Don't it, Brad? Yeah, anything that we have out there that I don't, anyway. All right, anything else from the board? And there?
Before you adjourn, were you able to look at the agenda online and click on?
I meant to tell you when this is over, thank you very much. Yes.
That's all Sharon.
I could not find that.
I originally was gonna say, you know, sometimes you have to give the devil his due. Brian, you did a good job.
I'll pass that one to Sharon, 'cause that's so far beyond me.
I did not find I was looking one day on the city's site, and I did not see the hangar list up there. It wasn't, is it up there?
Reynolds.
Like, I seen the part where you could put it in, like, you wanna request or put on the list or stuff, but I didn't see the actual
The waiting list
waiting
itself.
list.
Oh, the waiting,
I concur with that.
Yeah,
yeah, the waiting list is not up yet.
Okay.
The current list of who is in what.
right, that I seen, yes, I didn't see the waiting list.
Okay, work on that.
Yeah, that and the upgrade list would be good so that people know where they're at.
Okay, we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
In under an hour.
Let me shut off the recorder.
Oh.
You know, things might be entertaining, but we're getting it done.